What's going on, people? It's the Mental Money Podcast. I'm your host, Rossi, and today I've got a few simple tips to make your life better. It isn't a guarantee. None of this stuff is guaranteed. It's just helpful tips and advice to make your life better. And the first one to kick it off is not to do with like changing anything in particular or doing any of that type of stuff. It's to do with accepting what you have and being grateful what you have right now. Like picking apart the things you have right now and kind of seeing the good and the bad and being grateful for the good. Because a lot of us, me as well, can tend to kind of, just view it all as general and look at the bad, especially with mental health. We can tend to just pick apart the bad from a situation and not really see the good. So if that makes any sense, to be grateful for what you have right now so we can move forward and we can accept bigger and greater things and more I'm not going to say like more happy things, but good things for your life. It may not have to be like a happy thing. It could be just something that is deemed to be good for you, that's healthy. Second one is what you need to do is kind of make a list on what your day is going to consist of. And I'm bad for this. I don't really make lists. I know I should, but it's one of the advices I would give out, that you gotta make a list for things, because it just so there's some science behind it. You're more likely to do something if you write it down, and you're more likely to follow through with it if you write it down, because it almost seems like an obligation. It almost seems like an obligation. And when humans have an obligation, we tend to try and fulfill them more. Yeah, if that makes some sort of sense. So the night before, kind of like a dream diary, the night before you want to write something down, a few things that you want to do in the day. And that way you are more likely to follow through with what you said you were going to do. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 would be just, we have like this ability in ourselves to kind of scare ourselves of the future. But what I'm gonna say is just kind of, you're allowed those pre-assumptions of the future, but be ready for what does happen, because it might not happen the way you expect it. So you can be at more ease if you're just ready for change, if that makes sense, to allow yourself the room to accept it and kind of be able to, when that comes, even if it's exactly the way you predicted it, that you already knew, if you see what I'm saying. But you're willing to accept the change as well. So you're 50-50. And that just puts our minds at rest and allows us to keep moving forward smoothly. It's all about a constant nice flow in life. We don't like to kind of have sudden abrupt surprises. So that allows for a smooth transition through. That's tip number 3. Number 4 would be, if you think that life is owing you something, or that you're entitled to something, that you might want to just reassess the situation, reassess your life, not in a bad way, reassess the situation, as in you might want to, just because life isn't going to give you something, and the faster you realize these things, that you can do it for yourself, and that's the only real way it's going to happen, is that by doing it yourself, you're moving yourself, and you've got something to be proud for. Whereas if you feel like life gave it you, there's nothing really to be proud for, if that makes sense. But you're kind of hoping that life gives it to you. And I do the same. I kind of think that because I've done a certain amount of good things, that good things have to happen to me. But that's not the way it works, and that's just not reality. And again, all of this is trying to accept and move forward with better things. So, tip number 4 would just be reassess the situation if you do think life owes you something, but then you have to begin to realize that you are the decider of what happens and how you move forward. So that's tip number 4. Tip number 5 would be don't ignore the internal, what goes on up here, right? Don't ignore your feelings. Don't ignore how a situation might affect you. Don't ignore that. But don't also just believe in what you're feeling, because feelings can be confused. Feelings can be something that can mislead our direction, and it doesn't mean like throw it to the side. You need to assess the feelings, and you need to kind of realize that they aren't the be all and end all. They aren't. I know we all get this gut feeling, but it's not always right. It's not always true. You have to assess it. You can't just instinctively go forward with something, because that involves risk, and I'm not going to try and promote risk. What I try to do is promote a healthy, balanced view, and how we can actually go forward without ending up back in circles, in bad loops, negative vibes and stuff like that. So tip number 5 would be assess your emotions. Yeah. Number 6 would be watch out for the negative cycle. When that negative cycle starts to begin, just notice it. It's almost like mindfulness, but it's not. So we need to kind of realize when we are in a negative thinking spiral, and realize that these thoughts are going to come from time to time, but they don't actually change anything. Don't let it have the power over you that maybe sometimes it does. Sometimes we're tired, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're down, sometimes we're not. So just realize when those things are happening, and realize that it's going to come to an end. It's going to calm down, and you're going to come back to a much more positive way of thinking. That's tip number 6. So watch out for the negative thinking. Number 7 would be set up and also stick to your routine. So if you don't have a routine, you need to set one up and stick with it. If you are already in a routine, you need to stick with it. And by routine, I don't mean anything crazy, just kind of maybe waking up at the same time every day, going to sleep at a similar time every night, and kind of getting your same time meals maybe in the day. Depends how stringent you want that routine to be, but we are creatures of habit. We're human after all. Maybe set into your regime that you do a bit of exercise, or you do some. Make sure it includes healthy things, not things that are gonna keep dragging you back or make your life any more difficult than it already is. So tip number 7, set up and stick to a routine. Number 8 would be just drop any kind of hatred, drop hatred, drop resentment of any kind. Just drop that, because again, it's this negative cycle that's going to take up space. It's going to take up your conscious thinking. It's going to require energy, and we're trying to not spend energy on unuseful things. We're trying to project a better path, and by doing that, if you drop the resentment, you're going to have free space. Imagine it's like a hard drive. You filled up a lot of it over time with certain emotions, and it's used up space. It can't be used by anything else. Say it's full. What we want to do is kind of clear that hard drive of emotions. We want to clear it of all the bad stuff that we don't want anymore, so we can allow room for the good stuff that we do want. And that is a big one. Like, I feel like these last tips are very, very useful. So number 8 is drop your resentment, drop your hate, kind of remove it from your life. And it might not be easy, but is very essential to keep moving forward in a healthy way. Number 9 would be learn yourself, learn to respect yourself, and also try to figure out who you really are deep inside. Very hard, difficult thing to do. It's not easy. None of these things really are easy when you put them into practice, but they will make it, and they will create a better life. I can guarantee this, that we all tend to fake it from time to time, and we notice us faking it, but you're in your right to do so. But at the same time, you need to know who you really are, and you need to also respect yourself for who you really are. And that takes some thinking, that takes a process in itself. So do that, and then you can follow through with other things. Does that make any sense? So, number 9, know who you really are, learn to respect yourself. Number 10, and this, it seems very, very basic, very kind of hippie, like whatever you want to call it, but it works. Number 10, enjoy every bit of the day. Try anyway, yeah? Try to enjoy the little things that happen in the day, yeah? The little things. Little things here and there build up a big picture. And we really don't recognize the good things that happen enough. We just kind of build up a recognition of bad things. And again, it's like that hard drive little memo I gave you. What we need to do is start building good bridges. We need to build it piece by piece, little things, bit by bit, and that will create the bigger picture. And at the end, you'll have this perfect, well, not perfect, but better image. Yeah. And honestly, I genuinely believe that if you follow these 10 tips, very simple but hard to put into practice, but once they are in practice, they flow like water. I can promise you that. These are 10 tips to live a better life. I've been your host, Rossi. This is the Mental Money Podcast, where we aim for a better life. Thank you so much for watching. If you do like this content, please, please, please do keep following the content. And also, I'm going to try and get up some sort of social media. That is in the works. Also, I'm going to try and do some more live streams and longer podcasts for you guys, because I feel like it's important just to not always have this formatted kind of look to the channel. So that is coming. Don't even worry about that. But thank you so much for watching this video. I am your host, Rossi, and I will see you guys next time.